What is up, my fellow ace trainers? Welcome back to another DGBA video, and today we will be covering the very first game to kick off the DGBA with Ethan versus Hacker. Obviously you can see the teams on your screen, but I will pull up both teams to show which Pokemon were benched and give you my educated guess as to why. Before we begin, I want to clarify that I do aim for these battle videos to be more educational and aim to paint the clearest picture I can for each game. Now here we have Ethan's team, and he decided to bench his Clodsire, which is understandable since Treads and Iron Bundle both pressure really hard offensively, and even something like Earthquake Slitherwing. Azelf was also benched, which is understandable, but I could have seen a mix Azelf with U-turn for a Spadef Meloetta with Fire and Psychic coverage. It hits the team decently hard, and not a lot of Pokemon naturally OHKO it, but I get he probably had a different game plan in mind. Weavile was also benched, which is understandable as it doesn't do a lot to Treads outside of a predicted low kick, and it should be noted Hacker did have a Toxapex, but he chose to bench it. So to be honest with you, I feel Weavile could have fared pretty well into the 6 Pokemon Hacker did bring, but in hindsight, it's 2020 at the end of the day. Lastly, Dondoza was benched, which is fair, as it doesn't do too much to opposing Toxapex and gets smacked hard by Bundle and Rotom-Mow, and overall doesn't work too good as a wall, similarly to Clodsire. I do actually want to clarify that Weavile would have had a pretty decently hard time against the bug, so that's probably also another reason he benched it. But anyways, we have Hacker's team now, and he decided to bench the Screamtail, which is fine considering his current 6 Pokemon look like a more offensive game plan, and he probably did not want Screamtail to slow any potential momentum he might gain throughout the course of the battle. Then we also have Hydreigon, who was also benched, which surprised me as Morgrem is Ethan's best Dark check, but I understand that it realistically is a decent switch in, if it is especially defensive with a Violet especially, and it does get set up on by Volcarona if it's like locked into Dark Pulse, for example, or like if it's not like a weird like Rock Slide set, you know. And anyways, Toxapex was also benched, which was surprising considering it can handle Volk most of the time and can continuously haze it for it to not be an issue, but he must have considered like a Terror sequence that could end very badly. And as a result, he decided to leave the Toxapex on the bench. Because to be honest, it doesn't really look that bad. I also get that it's a pretty free Orform substitute. Pex, I mean. And what else is there? Yeah, there's one last Pokemon, and that was the Whiscash, which is understandable. But it is a Whiscash, and I'm happy he even made it to the roster. And I'm hoping he doesn't get cut because, again, it's one of my favorite Pokemon of all time. So, anyways, with that said, let's get on to the game. Alright, so I do suspect the Hacker could lead with the Rotom-Mow, as Ethan does not have any electric immunities outside of potential Terra Ground, so he could start off the game with a pretty easy Volt Switch and go from there. As for Ethan, I'm pretty sure he's thinking the exact same thing, so I could see him leading with Morgrem to set up screens immediately, or just leave Golden Go as it avoids status and will eat any hit Rotom goes for. So as we see here, let me just put this on normal speed. That is exactly what happens. Golden Go takes a decent amount from Volt Switch. And I assume it's Scarf Volt Switch, as it's able to offensively pressure the Palafin later on as soon as it gets Hero Form. So, I'm going to believe watching this is going to be Scarf, and I'm sure Ethan's going to be thinking the same thing, because, I mean, look at his team. You can just click Scarf Volt Switch, Leaf Storm, and if need be, you can Trick. So, it's, like, pretty good here. So, he's going to go hard into the Meloetta, as it's going to take a Shadow Ball, but obviously it is immune because it's a normal type. So it coming in hard makes you believe it's either an Assault Vest set that can come in on Golden Goes Make It Rain, or it's like a more like Spadef set, like it could have like Calm Mind or something of that nature, like just like a bulkier lefty set. But I think it just firing off moves is a better opportunity for Hackers, so I think it's just going to be Assault Vest as a result. So we're going to get a pretty interesting sequence where Hacker probably doesn't want to let up the momentum, because it looks like a matchup where he just wants to do everything in his power to not let the Morgrem set up screens and the Orphan get a Shed Tail. Because, I mean, looking at his team, like, you have the Golden Go, and then you have, like, 2 Cheesemons, and then you have, like, your 2, you know, S+ tier Mons, and then a Bramblegast. So, Hacker is just trying his best here to try to maintain the offensive pressure, and he's probably thinking, like, in a Violet, Spadef, Morgrem's going to come in here, so he's just trying to fire off the Hyper Voice to get as much damage early on as possible. But he gets the read wrong, and Golden Go stays in as he clicks Make It Rain. And as you're going to see, this doesn't do a lot of damage. It does like 35%. So that makes me believe that it is indeed Assault Vested. Or this is like a really weak Golden Go. And I want to believe the former. So yeah, Meloetta unnecessarily eats a hit without getting any damage off. And then it once again clicks Hyper Voice. So Hacker is doing everything in his power here to again maintain that offensive momentum because he just doesn't want to lose it. But as a result, he lost 57% of his Meloetta's HP while gaining nothing out of it, especially after he made a pretty good read on the Shadow Ball. So it's just like a little unfortunate. But things are going to turn around as the Meloetta is going to click Shadow Ball here, as Ethan does go hard into the Brambleghast. So it's weird because if I'm Ethan, I don't think he's going to click Hyper Voice again. So I almost want to believe he just considered that Meloetta was like locked in, but he also must have known by the damage it was like really bulky AV. So maybe he just thought he didn't have Hyper Voice and Brambleghast would be a free switch in. But it is a little strange as the Brambleghast takes an unnecessary hit and he's like, well, that's really bad. So he's going to end up going into the Morgrim, but Hacker goes into the Talonflame because I'm thinking because the Brambleghast is the same base speed, fun fact, as Meloetta. And I'm going to imagine the Meloetta doesn't have a ton of speed as he probably wants more bulk to take the hits better from Golden Go. And you don't expect Brambleghast to run, or you don't know how much speed it's going to run. Like, is it going to really speed time Meloetta, or is it going to invest more into its bulk? You know, that's up to you to decide while you're prepping. And, well, as a result, he decided to go hard Talonflame. I'm guessing just because he thought Power Whip was going to come out. And he gets the read wrong, and he double switches. I'm going to imagine because, you know, you don't want to get this thing Thunder Waved, because all of a sudden if this gets Thunder Waved, then you get outsped by, like, everything, including, like, Golden Go, and you just take too much damage. Even though, I don't know if Orpharm actually outspeeds. Now, Orpharm's really slow. I think Talonflame would be faster, but still, being paralyzed is just not good. As, you know, you get outsped by Volk and Golden Go, and that's not fun. So he's going to go into the Iron Treads now, and Morgrim, as a result, is able to get a free Reflect into a Pardon Shot. And this is going to be a very interesting sequence because, as you see here, the Treads is probably thinking, let me get my free rocks up, because, I mean, if he taunts me, it's whatever. And if he Pardon Shots, then I'm going to get my free rocks up, as there's no way an 80% Brambleghast could take a knockoff, right? But as we're going to find out, this Brambleghast has a Cobra Berry, it's got a Reflect up, and the Iron Treads is -1. So we're going to see the Brambleghast not even come close to dying. It only takes 9% from knockoff, as the Brambleghast Rapid Spins, gets rid of the rocks, and not only that, but the Brambleghast Strength Saps, and even though the Iron Treads is at -1 attack, the Brambleghast still recovered like a tremendous amount of HP. I'm going to assume because one, Brambleghast probably doesn't have a good base HP stat, and two, Iron Treads has just got a lot of attack. So it works out really well for the Brambleghast as it takes another knockoff. It only takes 11%. A little more. Obviously takes no Cobra Berry, but still, like, 11% is like really pitiful damage. So all of a sudden, all the momentum that Hacker had going for him is just completely gone. And now the Brambleghast is like really controlling the game. And this thing does get access to spikes, so he can just start getting up spike right now because this thing has to switch. Like, it's a complete sitting duck. Like, even if he gets rocks up again, like, there's nothing he can do to actually prevent him from, like, getting rid of him. And even though he's at -2, we saw how much a -1 strength step recovered, so he's still going to gain a lot of HP. Like, once he goes down to, like, 40%, he could probably strength step and get up to, like, near full. So this thing has to switch, and now the court has been swapped over to Ethan. He's got full control, so he's going to switch into the Talonflame because, I mean, it's a pretty good switch in, unless this clicks like Poltergeist, but we've already seen now Spike, Strength Step, and Rapid Spin, so if I had to guess, he probably got Power Whip as his last move. It could be Poltergeist, technically, but, I mean, as of right now, we're unsure. But even if he clicks Poltergeist, it's not banded, so Talonflame will eat, so it's, like, not that big a deal, and you could just, like, roost after. And this is going to be a pretty important turn for both sides. For one, Reflect doesn't go off, so we find out the Morgrim is Light Clay. It's not a Violate, meaning it can't actually switch in to most of his team offensively because it's going to take a lot of damage. So if he would have brought Hydreigon, Dark Pulse would have been a very spammable move, especially if he was like Specs, for example, because I'm sure Morgrim just takes a really large amount of damage. But similar to the Weavile, it's like hindsight. Like, how could you like really expect that? Plus, I'm sure Hacker had an exact plan for these 6 months, but I mean, Hydreigon looked pretty good. It's basically what I'm trying to say. As, yeah, we get a free spike. He's going to go into the Golden Go, as Hacker doesn't want to fuck around anymore. He doesn't want to risk it. He could have clicked Flare Blitz. I mean, technically he could have, but I'm guessing he just didn't want... He wanted to do more damage to the Palafin if it came in, because technically it could to flip turn. But I think Flare Blitz, if you have it, is a much better play there. But Golden Go does come in hard on the Brayper, takes only 11%. And Talonflame probably doesn't Oko back with Flare Blitz, so he's going to switch into the Treads. because it outspeeds after, and it might kill the Golden Go of Earthquake, I'm assuming. And it's going to eat a Shadow Ball, realistically. But, again, the momentum is completely on Ethan's side, and to make sure he maintains it, he makes a read of the game and clicks Focus Blast to knock out the Treads. And it's like, dude, what a fucking crazy play. So Ethan has not only like completely like outplayed the Iron Treads with the Bramble Gas, but he was able to get up a spike. And well, actually, I don't know why there's no spike on the field. That's strange. He's gotten the spike up, but yeah, the Iron Treads took the spike. I don't know why it's not on the field, but everything that Ethan has done for the past like 7 turns has been pretty good. And now he's up 6-5. And all he's got to do is maintain the offensive pressure, because like outside of Meloetta, he's got no good ghost immunity, or no good ghost resist. In fact, he doesn't. And Meloetta's already at 43% thanks to what Hacker was doing earlier with the Golden Go, trying to make that hard read on the Morgrim. So yeah, Ethan's good, looking good. He just has to play this well. As Rotom comes in, and he's just going to click Volt Switch. He could have clicked T-Bolt, because it could probably eat any hit, and HP probably isn't that important on it, but I understand he also like want to be out of range of like Jet Punch from Palafin later, so Volt Switch is a completely fine play. It's like, I'm like nitpicking, honestly. As the Talonflame comes in, takes a absolute tremendously amount of damage. Like, that's not specs, but it nearly like killed, dude. Like 73. So this proves that the Talonflame is very, very, very offensive. Like, I don't know if it's banded, because I don't think banded would have only done 11% to a Golden Go, even with Reflect. Like, that seems like too little. But he's obviously like max offensive, max like pretty speedy. So I'm actually not too sure what the Talonflame is currently, but very obviously offensive. And Talonflame will force out the Golden Go as he goes hard into Palafin. There is no more Reflect, so Talonflame will get a pretty decent hit off on the Palafin. You know, 70% is no joke. It puts it in range of like 2 volts later, I would imagine, or puts it better in range of like First Impression, you know, stuff like that. As Talonflame could still be saved because you could sack it to like Recoil, and it's like a weird way of pivot where you could get a big hit off and you die, so you're able to choose whatever mon you want in the field after. And not to mention, it's, I mean, Fire Stab, if you're able to chip that Palafin, looks pretty good. So, yeah, Talonflame will be saved. He goes into the Slitherwing. This is going to be the first real, like, misplay I think Ethan makes. Like, because he had everything going for him for the last, again, like, at this point, like, 10 turns. But he should have probably just, like, not had a normal Palafin in. Like, if he has Flip Turn, he should have clicked it. Or if he doesn't have Flip Turn, he should have just hard swapped into, like, maybe the Golden Go. Maybe the Morgrim even, because Morgrim probably won't die to anything that's clicked. Unless Talonflame were to, like, click, like, Brave Bird. But, again, it was in range of Jet Punch. He probably doesn't want to stack it. It's an aggressive play, but I think it's, like, a smart play. As now Ethan's kind of in an awkward spot because you have a Slitherwing and you have a Palafin that's not in hero form yet. He does switch out now, so he is in hero form. Brambleghast comes in as the Meloetta actually chooses to come in, and we find out here that the Meloetta was faster the entire time. So I understand swapping. I'm actually not gonna like nitpick that at all. It's actually completely understandable because again, I think this Meloetta probably doesn't have a lot of speed. So Hacker kind of has every right to think that the Brambleghast is faster. But had he just like killed the Brambleghast, he kind of avoids that whole sequence with the Treads. I don't know if it would have saved him from getting predicted with the Focus Blast, like, because I don't know if Talonflame has to come in either on Brambleghast if the Iron Treads gets like trolled the way it did by Brambleghast. So it's a little unfortunate that he was actually just faster. But Meloetta does get the knockout. There is no more Brambleghast, no more Spike can be set up. It's just one layer, even though you can't see it. I don't know why you can't see the Spike layer, but it's time to do some sinister things for Ethan. He's going to bring in the Morgrim, and Meloetta is just going to fire for Hyper Voice because, again, this isn't a Violet Morgrim, so you want to get off as much damage as possible. Try to put it in range of all your other mons like Rotom and, like, Talonflame, even, like, you know, the Iron Bundle, because this is probably, like, a more Spadef Morgrim for Hydreigon. So, and based off that Hyper Voice damage, I definitely want to believe that's, like, a really Spadef Morgrim. So, Morgrim is just, I mean, yeah, Morgrim is going to get both Light Screens up and the Reflect. Then the Morgrim is going to click Pardon Shot. And then here comes Big Daddy Orpworm. Big old smile on his face. Only going to take 8% from Hyper Voice. Which, I don't know if that's Spadef damage. It probably is, though, because it's so physically defensive. You don't even need EVs on it to eat hits. So it's probably like max Spadef or something. And I don't know if Hacker has Focus Blast. If he does, he doesn't click it here. And I'm going to imagine it's because he just doesn't want to deal with having to miss, you know? So he is just going to go hard into the Rotom. As the Orpworm is going to actually click Shed Tail here. And he's going to go into the Volcarona. And Volcarona is behind screens. And Rotom can actually break the sub with Volt Switch as the Volcarona gets a Quiver Dance. So that's actually going to be GG, as Volcarona is going to pick up 5 kills here, and Ethan's going to win 5-0, is what I would have said about most of the time. But Hacker isn't just your average battler. He is a pretty good battler, and he had an ace up his sleeve for everything that's about to transpire here. But yeah, as we see, the Iron Bundle comes in with a booster energy, gets a boost in speed, so it's actually faster currently than the Volcarona, who just got a +1 speed. And the Iron Bundle is going to reveal that it's actually Encore. And the Volcarona actually Terras, which is a big deal. And I'll explain why later. But anyways, the Volcarona does Terra to the Electric, it's Encore into Quiver Dance. And now we have an interesting situation where Hacker has about like 3 turns to try to deter the Volcarona as much as possible from like really snowballing and like winning really hard, while also, you know, winning the game. I don't know if Hacker has that in mind, but he definitely has an opportunity to at least limit the damage. So what he's going to do here is flip turn on the Volcarona, as the Volcarona does click Quiver Dance again, because it's Encore, and now it's faster because it's like +2. And here comes the Slitherwing. Slitherwing is going to go down to 55%. Volcarona is going to be Encored for 1 more turn. So the Slitherwing has an opportunity to hit this with the hardest hit it can hit it with, which, as you're going to see, is actually Earthquake. And this is a big deal because, as you're going to see here, Encore ends. If the Volcarona did not Terra into the Electric type, then I don't know if he loses the Volcarona's HP as much as it did, because if you stay Fire type, I think you force in the Talonflame, and then you can actually, at that point, probably Terra, eat the hit better, and then maybe you would be able to not take as much damage, because I don't know if he clicks Flare Blitz or Brave Bird in that situation with the Talonflame. If he just click Brave Bird, Volcarona would just take very little damage. You would be at a very healthy amount of HP, and then you wouldn't maybe be in range of First Suppression later. But as you're going to see, that's what happens. Hacker has a second Pokemon, which will be the 18% Meloetta, which is a very good play. Volcarona clicks Fiery Dance, no longer Encore. Slitherwing comes in, but the Volcarona dies to the first impression. So again, if he did not Terra, you probably force him to Talonflame, and then Hacker has to make a decision where, if do I click Flare Blitz or do I click Brave Bird? If he's smart, he clicks Flare Blitz, and that might put it in range of the first impression. But even then, with a Reflect Up, I don't know if it does. Like, I don't know the Volk's EVs that well. I didn't ask for it. But I think if he doesn't Terra, I think he just wins on the spot. I don't know if there was anything Hacker could have done once, you know, he were to go into Talonflame. It Terras with the Reflect Up. I don't think it takes enough damage. He wouldn't be Encored anymore. And I think he would be out of range of First Suppression, because I don't think this is banded. In fact, we're going to find out it's not banded as the Morgrem comes in here. And the Morgrem, or, you know, Mr. Ethan, is going to underestimate a burnt Slitherwing. But again, this is not a Violite, and it's probably specially defensive. So he's going to make the mistake of clicking Light Screen, and he dies to CC. Big mistake, because I don't think the game is going to really extend beyond past the 8 turns anyways. So if he just clicks Reflect into the Light Screen, he would be okay, because I think he would just take 2 CCs, and then you would get the free switch into the Palafin after, with the Reflect Up and the Light Screen up. But that's not what happens, as the Morgrem just dies to CC. Here comes the Palafin. This is basically Ethan's last chance. If he doesn't win with this Palafin, then long term he's going to just lose to Talonflame and the Rotom. Again, he takes about 13%. I guess with Reflect Up, he would have took like 6% less, so I don't know if it was like that big a deal, but it just looked kind of silly to lose Morgrem like that for no reason, when you could have just got a Reflect Up and Light Screen after. But, you know, it is what it is. And then Volt Switch only does 37%, which isn't bad, but another big reason why the Terra was huge is because this is the other Terra Pokemon that he has, and it's probably something like Terra Poison, maybe even like Terra Grass. And if you would have had the Terra Grass option, and as you can see, he's going to be like Drain Punch, you know, this could have been a much bigger threat. So let's say in a world where Volcarona somehow doesn't win, if you go into the Morgrem, you set up a Reflect properly, and then the Light Screen, then you go into the Palafin, you get into a Terra Grass form, and then you get a +1, you know, you do have to be a little worried about Bundle, though. That's the only thing. But if you have a Light Screen up, you might be able to tank 1 hit, because it's not Specs. So it's just like things could have gone very differently. But that's not what happens. Rotom comes in here, as Golden Go is going to come in on the Rotom, and Hacker's basically in a like checkmate situation, because Talonflame click Flare Blitz. No matter what comes in, something will die, and he can, like, if the Golden Go is sacked here, then he can just click T-Bolt to victory because an Orfworm is put outside of range of Shed-Tail, and Palafin obviously dies. If he sacks the Orfworm dies, it's no longer going to be Shed-Tailed. You just go into Rotom. If he goes into the Palafin after, you Thunderbolt. If he goes in the Golden Go, you Volt Switch, and then you can just T-Bolt to victory. So, yeah, that's not what happens though. And Rotomo's going to come in. He's going to click the T-Bolt as mentioned. Orphan's going to try to get the Shed-Tail off just in case he didn't take enough, but he obviously takes too much, and that's going to be GG. So, yeah, well played by Hacker, but unfortunately for Ethan, I think the game was very, very winnable. He did not have to tear out a Volcarona. He was behind a sub, so it's like it doesn't really matter what the bird does after, whether he clicks Hydro Pump or like Volt Switch or Flip Turn. You still are behind the sub, and you get to determine what comes in after, whether it's Talonflame or the bug. Talonflame probably comes in because, again, you're still a bug type, and that'd be a crazy play to go into the bug because its best coverage as Volcarona's base typing is Acrobatics if it's no item, which I don't think it was, and Dual Wing Beat, which doesn't hit very hard, and you can get burnt potentially midway, and that will literally half your damage, so, like on the second one. So, I don't know. And even if he does do that, you could Terra Den. And if he clicks the wrong button, you still win. So it's, I don't know. It's very tough. Tough way to lose for Ethan. But Hacker honestly played it as good as he could to try to claw back after being down 5-6. And as a result, Hacker is now 2-0 plus 2 differential as Ethan is now... no, I mean, he's 1-0. I might have said 2-0. 1-0 plus 2 differential as Ethan falls to 0-1 minus 2 differential. Nonetheless, it's a very clean game, and it was a thoroughly entertaining one to start off the season. So if you guys enjoyed the content, please leave a like and subscribe, and I'll be seeing you guys in the next video. And as always, enjoy playing Pokemon. All right, see ya.